Hi there. So I had someone send me some excellent questions on one of my social media groups, and rather than turn that into a video, a channeled video, because there is a quick conversation between the person asking the questions and the Nine's response, I feel it's better to present this as a written piece and then read out that piece. So if you go to my website, you'll be able to find this and download it if you want to examine it more. But these are some excellent questions based on the last couple of videos that have been released on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to begin. Magenta, would you say this is an aligned interpretation of what the Nine are saying in this transmission? So I broke this down and presented the whole thing to the Nine. So this was written as one piece, but I broke down each section to be able to present each section to the Nine. All incarnating beings, no matter how advanced, run the risk of failing to awaken. So that's the questioner. All incarnating beings, no matter how advanced, run the risk of failing to awaken. The Nine replied, this is correct when incarnating into the 3D Earth universe that you exist within. The questioner then asked, without access to their memories, they may take an action that results in their no longer having the soul memory cohesion to retain individualization after the end of that incarnation. The Nine replied, this is correct. However, a soul who has retained a high percentage of memory through multiple incarnations holds a much higher probability of individualizing at the end of the Ascension cycle than a soul who has retained little memory through many incarnations, but enough to remain on the path of individualization. The questioner asked, if this choice is not made on a soul level, that being's guidance system would attempt to prevent the loss of memory. But the risk is always there because of the nature of free will. And the Nine replied, this is correct. From the higher perspective, all souls choose to individualize. But those choices will be different depending on the level of memory accumulation through multiple incarnations. So the questioner went on to say, so incarnating on a planet with a high degree of amnesia and hijacking is a fundamentally dangerous endeavor, even for a being that has ascended in previous cycles. And the Nine replied to this, your statement is correct from your perspective. We would not use the word dangerous to describe this situation. However, there is ultimately no danger from the soul perspective, as at the source point level, no soul is ever in danger. However, it is a very challenging path for the soul. For indeed, they do enter a reality where there are many pitfalls, shall we say, regarding memory recall and individualization. The being that has ascended in previous cycles will already have individualized at soul level. The great majority of these souls do go through soul memory recall and ascend again, even when in full service to the beings who have not yet ascended. We say the great majority, for the previous ascension, whilst affording a high probability, is not a guarantee. The questioner went on to say, I understand that because we are at the end of an ascension cycle, beings are given a way to start over. But that doesn't mean that regenesis and ascension are the only options. Is that correct? And the Nine replied, that is correct. We have not yet touched upon the other options at this point, however, due to our mission as a guidance system working with information downloads at your own pace, taking into account our conduits fields and those of the human collective. However, if you are able to ask the question, then we can provide a response. So yes, Regenesis and Ascension are not the only options. However, Regenesis and Ascension are the most likely options for the great majority. The questioner went on to say, from previous transmissions, it sounds as though some beings may choose to continue their linear experience in a different context. And the 9 replied, some may choose this, yes. The questioner went on to say, I am wondering why, on a soul level, a large number of beings would choose Regenesis when it seems like a large step backwards for their advancement. And the 9 replied, it is both backwards and forwards for their advancement, depending on perspective. The reasons they choose Regenesis are multiple and varied, but all choices are made for the highest good for that soul and for all other souls, and indeed the one source soul. And the questioner said, is it necessary to reach cohesion, the cohesion threshold, within a single ascension cycle? Or is it necessary, as in, is that the reason why they choose Regenesis? Or is it necessary to reach the cohesion threshold within a single ascension cycle? So they're asking here, is it necessary to choose Regenesis to reach the cohesion threshold for the ascension cycle? And the 9 replied and said, Regenesis is not necessary to reach cohesion level. If a soul has not reached cohesion level at the end of one cycle, then ultimately the only option afforded that soul is Regenesis, despite us saying that there are other options. The other options involve what we may call partial ascension. This is the continuing the linear experience in a different context. This is neither ascension or Regenesis. More explanation on this will be delivered in due course in alignment with our conduits fields and those of the human collective. We are the white-winged collective consciousness of 9. Now, what I will say is, in my 3rd book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame, partial ascension is touched upon. It's touched upon in a very sort of small way. It's not gone into in depth. And obviously the 9 are saying here that they'll be bringing forward more information about this, but not at this point. So I wouldn't necessarily rush out and buy the book just to find out what partial ascension is, as it is only discussed in a minor way. However, if you already have the book, I would suggest go look that up, because this has been mentioned in that transmission. So those were the questions, and that was the 9's response to them. So thank you very much for listening, and I will be back with more videos. Lots of love. Bye.